Why don't we talk about the elephant in the room, Terry?
You mean your bad hair day last week?
Yeah, why didn't you tell me I had hair sticking straight up?
It's the only way to get more viewers. Your bad hair day really got people to turn on the website to watch our show.
You just couldn't get advertising or something?
I didn't have time to sit there and talk about your hair and fix it. I did it because it was the best for the times.
Ugh, I was just hoping for an apology.
Hey friends, what are we doing here without... I'm the one who calls the shots around here.
Hey, why don't you just leave us alone? We know what we're doing.
Oh.
You looking for this? There's your apology.
Hey, and welcome to Lost at Times. I'm Jennifer Osterday. This is Philip Osterday. This is Terry Baber. And today we have a special guest, Paul Collins. And we all watched Dead is Dead on Lost last night, and we have a lot to talk about it. So let's get started.
Start off with some guy riding on a horse and going to some camp. And
I didn't really think that was Widmore. Did you guys know right away?
No.
no, that was kind of...
I thought it was like some Julio. Like that.
Yeah. And then he talks to Richard Alpert, and he asks him why he saved Ben, and Richard Alpert's like, no, he's kind of just like, I don't really care what you think.
Yeah, he didn't really respect it. He said Jacob Wine had done the Island Chooses who the Island chooses or something.
Mm-hmm. So then Widmore goes into Ben's tent where they're keeping him and tells him, what exactly does he tell him?
He just says, you were injured, Ben, and you're among friends. You should be dead with this island. It saved your life. Which is actually a foreshadowing of what happens later. Once again, the island saves Ben's life. But then at the very end of the scene, he says, I'm Charles Widmore.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to the present with Ben and Locke, with Locke sitting over Ben, and Ben's like, my God, you're alive? And Locke's like, well, yeah. And then he's like, I knew this would happen. And then Locke's like, then why are you so surprised? And Ben says, well, it's one thing to believe it, it's another thing to see it. And Ben says that he broke the rules and then he needs to go get judged for what he did. And Locke's like, judged by whom? And then Ben says, it's what you guys call the monster. And then we go to commercial break and we cut back. We're at the crash scene with Ilana and Ben.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Ben's just kind of strolling along, like just every other day, and he goes, what are you guys doing? And she says, we're moving some items that we need to move. He said, do you need any help? And she says, no, we've got it under control. Then Ben says, well, have a great day. Just a typical Ben look on his face. So then as Ben is walking on the beach, you can see Cesar walking up to Ben, and they begin talking. In the background, you can see John out looking out to sea, and Ben and Cesar start talking, and he says, well, Ben says to Cesar, what's he been saying about me? He says, well, he says you killed him. I killed him. Well, Ben says, hey, he looks pretty good to me. Somebody's been killed. And Cesar says, well, that's what he's been telling everybody. And then Ben kind of tries to get Cesar into his confidence and says, this guy might be kind of insane. And come to think of it, I don't remember him being on the airplane. Do you remember him being on the airplane? No, I don't. He said, well, I'm kind of afraid of him. I don't know what he might do. And then Cesar says, don't worry. pulls out the heat and says, "I've got your back."
Don't worry, I got this gun. And that was really funny because Ben's like, we may be dealing with a man who's dangerously deranged.
And just looking in Ben's eyes, I mean.
And it goes to a flashback, and we have a younger Ben with little Ethan. And I think it's really funny because Ben's up to something, and he's like, "Shut up and stay here, Ethan." And Ethan's like, "Well, I'll kill her." And he's like, "How old do you think Ethan was?"
He looked like he was about 15, maybe.
Yeah, early teens.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben goes into this makeshift shelter that's on the beach, and we see young Danielle Rousseau there, and he accidentally knocks over a music box, which starts playing, and that wakes her up, and she starts to go for a rifle, but Ben points a gun on her, so obviously he's got the advantage, and she tells him that he's the one that infected them, but he just picks up the baby Alex and starts to leave with the child, and of course Rousseau starts going crazy over this, and he fires a warning shot at her, and just tells her to be happy that he's going to spare her life and that she's still alive, and leaves with the baby, and said, and basically she tells her that if she wants the baby to live, that every time she hears whispers, she should run away.
Yeah, I thought that was a little interesting that they talked about the whispering.
I guess back to the first episode,
Yeah.
or the first season, as it says.
So does that confirm that the whispering is the others and it's them, not like something else?
It's either the others or it's the smoke monster.
Yeah.
It's one of those two.
Yeah, because at one point I thought it was all the time traveling was like people kind of stuck in limbo or talking or something, but I guess I was wrong. We go back to, I don't know what
I
time.
think it's 2007.
Yeah, and we're in Ben's like old office or whatever. Do you know what's that called?
Yeah, hydro station.
Yeah, hydro
Yeah.
station. And Ben takes out his sentimental photo of Alex,
Mm.
and that's when Locke comes in and he's like, "I was hoping we could talk about the elephant in the room." And Ben's like, "Oh, you mean about me killing you?" And he says that was the only way to get Locke back to the island because Locke failed at doing it himself or something. And John's like, "Well, if all I had to do was die, why'd you stop me?" And Ben says, "Because Locke had critical information that would have died with him, and he didn't have time to talk Locke back into hanging himself." And Locke says, "Well, I just wanted an apology." But Ben doesn't get one. Then we go back to the plane crash scene, and this is when Locke and Ben are getting the boat ready to leave. And Locke's like, "Well, we're just going to take the boat, and Caesar's not going to let it happen." And then that's when all of a sudden Ben's like, "Well, I'll stick up for you, Locke." And he pulls out the gun, which he somehow stole from Caesar, and just bam, Caesar's shot and flies away in the air from the impact. And that's when Ben says it's good old, "Consider that my apology line."
All right. So when Ben and Locke get to the island, what happens then?
Well, I believe Ben and Locke begins to play little mind games with one another. It's primarily that Locke is playing the games. He's asking Ben questions and getting him irritated, and then he says to Ben, "Hey, I think you're lying to me while you're really back here on the island. You're not really back here for why you think to atone for something. You're here because you're being judged because you killed your daughter, Alex." And Ben's kind of a little bit taken back by that, but it seems like Locke knows that. So then we go back to a flashback, and we find out that Charles and Richard are sitting around a campfire eating dinner, and when Ben shows back up, he's carrying a baby, and Charles is very upset with him because he didn't kill Danielle. And he says, "Is that a baby you have?" And he says, "You shouldn't have brought it back." And he says, "You should kill the baby." And pretty much Ben looks at him and says, "Is that what Jake would want you to do, is to kill that baby?" And then Charles just kind of looks at him and says, "If you want to kill," Ben says to Charles, "If you want the baby killed, then you do it." And Charles kind of looks disgusted and can't do it himself and walks away.
You think this is the beginning of the "you kill my daughter, I'll kill yours" truce?
Yeah, it sounds like it.